We begin this hour with Congress and the military debating the legacy of war in Afghanistan. U.S. military leaders saw themselves back on Capitol Hill today, this time giving sworn testimony to the House Armed Services Committee. They were grilled on why and how President Biden came to the decision of picking August 31st as the date to end the 20-year war.
My judgment remains that extending beyond the end of August would have greatly imperiled our people and our mission. The Taliban made clear that their cooperation would end on the 1st of September. And as you know, we faced grave and growing threats from ISIS-K. So staying longer than we did would have made it even more dangerous for our people and would not have significantly changed the number of evacuees we could get out.
The status quo included Afghan universities filled with young women, a democratic government trading with the world and providing basic goods and services to its people, and an advancing Taliban army getting ready to launch its latest summer offensive. With only 2,500 troops remaining as part of the deal President Trump cut with the Taliban, the United States was facing a decision with no good choices: leave entirely or once again ramp up the war machine. President Biden chose to leave and meet the timetable set by the Taliban. But that did not mean the U.S. government was ready to make it happen. Thousands of Afghans who were promised a life in the United States for their service to America were abandoned. Millions of dollars in military equipment was left behind. And the same group that was in power 20 years ago, the Taliban, is now back in power. The war ended with a reminder of the cycle of violence and revenge that engulfed Afghanistan for 20 years. After American service members were killed in Kabul airport, the United States quickly launched a drone strike. Here is what the U.S. commander of Afghanistan at the time, General McKenzie, had to say about it.
On 29 August, we undertook an MQ-9 strike against what we thought was an imminent threat to HKIA. That strike was a mistake, and I take full responsibility for that strike. I was under no pressure from any quarter to conduct the strike. It was based on our intelligence read of the situation on the ground. While in many cases we were right with our intelligence and forestalled ISIS-K attacks, in this case we were wrong, tragically wrong.
This is the legacy the United States is now left with after 20 years of war. Finally, acknowledging its drone programs and the military's mistakes, but leaving the Afghans to handle the deadly consequences. Joining us now to help us understand what went down in Afghanistan is our next guest, Mr. Charlie Kupchan. Thank you for joining us tonight. Charlie, would like to get your insight and reaction to this second round of testimony before Congress. What was your main takeaway?
Well, I guess a couple takeaways. One is that the military did want to stay longer, but we kind of knew that, and that's because the military never wants to leave until they feel that the job is done. And secondly, there was a pretty frank acknowledgement that the intelligence community, both the CIA and the DIA, the defense folks, they got it wrong. They thought we had 6 months to 2 years to execute the withdrawal. And in fact, we had a matter of weeks. And that's why we ended up seeing those heartbreaking pictures of the scramble to Kabul airport. And I think, two factors played a role here. One is that we had spent 20 years, billions of dollars working with the Afghans. And I think people thought there's no way they're going to collapse overnight, which is what they did. And the other thing is, once Trump peace agreement with the Taliban, which he did obviously before Biden took office, the Afghans saw the writing on the wall and they began to peel away and form other allegiances. So by the time the U.S. was ready to begin pulling out, the Afghan institutions unraveled with extreme rapidity.
Charlie, when you look at this, it's like a Greek tragedy. Everybody has lost something in this 20-year war. But the people who have lost the most have been the Afghan women and children. Afghan women, as you know, were able to have some progress made when the United States and NATO alliances were present. What becomes of them now that the Taliban is fully in control of the future of Afghanistan?
Well, I'm someone who supported Biden's decision to withdraw. I felt that the United States was fighting a losing war in search of an unattainable mission. That unattainable mission was trying to turn Afghanistan into Ohio, which wasn't going to happen because it's a deeply fragmented country. But you are right to say, what about those left behind? And I think the United States does have a moral obligation to do whatever it can to press the Taliban to preserve the rights of women, to make sure girls can go to school, to deal with theft and food crises that are booming now. So far, I think the international community has done the right thing by saying to the Taliban, you want our help, you have to meet minimum standards of decency and humanity. But this is still very much a work in progress, and there's no question that there will be setbacks to the lives of noble people, our partners, that have been left behind in Afghanistan.
Charlie, what is the work in progress? Knowing that the democracy that was in Afghanistan is no longer there, the Taliban are now seeking international recognition. Is this the period of time where something can actually change, or do we already know what's coming?
I don't think we know exactly what's coming. I think we need to look for a Taliban that is inclusive, and that means reaching out to folks that are not part of their network. The Taliban is mostly Pashtun. There are many other ethnic groups in Afghanistan, including Hazari, Uzbeks, Tajiks, many others. They need to send a signal that their interests are to be included as well. Women need to be assured, especially those that came of age not under Taliban rule, that they will have opportunities, that they can go to school, that they can continue to serve as anchors on the Afghan television and radio stations that blossomed over the last 20 years. They also need to show that they are not going to again partner with dangerous actors like Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. We don't have good reason to believe things are going to go in the right direction. There hasn't been a lot of outreach to women or to non-Pashtuns. We've heard about summary executions, the Taliban going after people who worked with the United States and the coalition, but the jury is still out. Let's see whether outside pressure can make a difference. And the Taliban want to be successful. The Taliban want to be recognized internationally. Let's wait and see whether pressure from the international community can push them in the right direction.
But the question arises, do they really want that kind of recognition when there is the argument, and even the generals agree and acknowledge that there is the possibility that the Afghanistan area will be one that reconstitutes itself to become an operational base for terrorism to be inflicted upon the world. And that is a concern that the United States has going forward and looking backward and looking ahead to see what possibilities may or may not exist from an Al-Qaeda reconstitution.
I would respond with 3 points. Number one is that the Taliban doesn't need Al-Qaeda or the Islamic State or others. It's done extremely well on its own, and it will lose international legitimacy if it is found to be partnering again with dangerous extremist groups. The second point I'd make here is the United States fights terrorist groups with standoff weaponry in many parts of the world, and we will see the U.S. use drones and aircraft based in other countries to go after terror cells in Afghanistan if that occurs. And finally, I don't expect to see a major regrouping of the Islamic State or Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, in part because they have better places to go. Places like Syria or Yemen or the Sahel in northern Africa, because they are failed states. There are open spaces there where nobody's really watching them like they are in Afghanistan. So for those three reasons, I think it's unlikely that you will see the Taliban again partner with a major number of actors who seek to do harm to the West or its allies.
Charles Kupchan, thank you for joining us today.